this one that we used to tell all the time, like at camp and stuff like that, right? And it was, there's a girl and she's babysitting and the children are upstairs asleep and she gets a phone call. She answers the phone and it's on the other line. They're like, have you checked the children? She's like, who is this? You know, and have you checked the children?
Oh dear.
And
I'm never going to babysit again.
She hangs up, right? And then the phone rings again, right? And she's like, oh, I'm not answering that phone. But
Don't blame her
parents.
I'm with you, honey.
Right? So she finally, you know, bring, bring. She finally picks up the phone. Hello? Have you checked the children?
I seriously can't remember how this ends.
And she's like, stop calling here. You know, she's getting mad. You know, stop calling here. Hangs up the phone. She decides she better go upstairs and check the children. So she just starts going up the stairs. First step. Second step. And of course, with each step, creak.
Of course, it's like,
there's no sneaking up on anybody.
why can't these people fix their stairs?
So creak, creak, creak. She goes up the steps. She comes to the door, and it's a little bit ajar. She pushes open the door. Creak. She looks in, and they seem okay. She listens. She can hear the soft breathing of sleeping children.
Hopefully.
She thinks. So she's like, they're okay. This was just some kind of prank call. So she turns around to leave. But then she sees that the closet door is open just a little bit. Was it open before? She couldn't remember. So she walks over to the door, goes to touch the knob. She reaches for it. And snap! He gets it.
Okay, so I'm going to try and go into creepy mode here. Okay, so there's this girl home alone with her dog. The phone rings. This creepy voice on the other end is like, are you in the house alone? She hangs up right away. A little while later, phone rings again. She's thinking it was just a prank call, so she answers. Are you in the house alone? And she hangs up and she's like, she gets her dog next to her and she's hugging her dog like, you know, what's happening? What's happening? After a while, there's no phone calls. So she's like, okay, it's just prank calls. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Fine. So she goes up to bed. And her dog always sleeps on the floor next to her bed. So she's lying there and she starts to feel like there's someone in the room. She turns on the light and she looks and she can't see anyone. So she turns out the light. She leans her hand down to the dog and the dog licks her hand and she feels safe again. So she pulls her hand back up and starts going to sleep. And then she'll get scared feeling like there's someone in the room and she'll put her hand down and the dog will lick her hand. She's like, okay, puts her hand back up. She wakes up in the morning and her dog isn't next to the bed. And she's calling him and she hears him at the bedroom door. She opens the door and he comes in. And she's like, what the heck? She goes over to the dresser and there's a note on the dresser and it says, humans can lick too.
Oh dear.
I remember as an animal lover that freaked me out, right? Because that's something I would do.
Yeah. Where we grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
And Halifax, for those of you who don't know, there was a huge explosion during the First World War.
Mm-hmm. 1918, I think, wasn't it, or 19?
I mean, yeah, one of those. Anyway, 2 ships collided in the harbor, and one was a munition ship, and there was a huge explosion. It was actually the biggest explosion, man-made explosion, before Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was intense.
It leveled most of the city, and a lot of people died.
Mm.
So there are a lot of ghost stories that are, home to Halifax, and along with that, there are also a lot of the victims from the Titanic, bodies that were found, were buried in Halifax, because that was
they were found off the shore of Nova Scotia, right?
Well, yeah, it went down, not too far from the Maritimes, from the east coast of Canada. Mm-hmm. So you can find, if you go to some of the old cemeteries there, you can find different victims, and that they were actually someone who died on the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of the ghost stories that I used to hear, and I loved ghost stories. I still do. But yeah, there was stories about, like, during the explosion when there was a priest that worked in, it was in one of the Catholic churches, and the explosion blew him out the window, right? And so when they rebuilt the church, like, the church for the most part stood, but when they were, fixing it up and putting new windows in and stuff like that, they put in a new window, but there was a silhouette of his head and like shoulders in the window, and every time they changed the window, that silhouette would still come up. Yeah,
I think I remember little bits about that, but I didn't know the history behind it, or I just remembered hearing about a silhouette in the window, and every time they changed the window there was the silhouette, but I didn't know.
And then there was another one about another church that had been leveled, and another church was built over to, like, in the same place. So when they built that church, sometimes you would see ghosts walking down the aisle of the church, but you would only see half of them. You'd see them from their waist up, and people were like, why are we only seeing half of these people? And finally they realized that actually the original floor of the church was actually like 3 feet or whatever lower, and when they rebuilt the church, they built it up, and that's why you're only seeing
their legs are underneath the floor.
Yeah.
Yeek.
True, not true, I don't know. But if you want a good ghost walk and lots of good ghost stories, Halifax, Nova Scotia is a good spot. It's a good spot for that. But if you want to hear some scary stuff that happened, like actually happened to us, I have one that, so my friend and I
just heard this story recently.
Yeah, we went, she used to take me to her cottage, they called it a camp, I think then, and so one Thanksgiving, we were going there to spend Thanksgiving, and we're driving there, and it's late because her dad had just gotten off work, and that's when we left, so we all pile into the car, and we're driving there, and it's like an hour and a half to get there. So we're driving along, and I don't know, we were in probably like grade 6 or 7. And we were driving there, and we hear on the news, it was just a perfect storm of things that happened in this event. But we heard on the news about this escaped convict from a local jail, local prison, this convict had escaped. And they were saying, in this vicinity, don't pick up any hitchhikers, or, don't open your door to strangers, things like that. And Jackie and I were sitting in the back seat, and her dad's like, ooh, that's not too far from us. We'll have to watch out for people, and, can't be trusting
convicts.
Yeah. So anyway, all this stuff, and so we're like, oh, that's a little disturbing, but didn't really think much of it after that. And anyway, so I'm lying in bed, and Jackie and I are sharing this little double bed, and I'm laying there reading. She's fast asleep next to me. And I just got this little light on next to me at the bed, and I'm just reading this book, and it's getting scary. It's, I'm like, ooh, just loving it. And then, like, it's quiet.
Like she said before, she loves ghost stories.
Because it's out in the woods, right? There's, like, nobody around. And all of a sudden, I just hear this sound, right? And I'm like, I'm sure that gave you a nice picture. But this is what I heard, right? And I'm like, what was that?
You have to do
so
the
I'm just like,
the right sound.
I'm just listening. I'm like, what happened, right? And then I hear some noise coming from the other side of the cabin, right? Like, rustling noise and that. And then I hear these footsteps.
Lumbering footsteps.
Heavy footsteps. Slowly coming down the hallway. And I'm like, and instantly I go to escape convict, right? And I'm trying to wake Jackie, and I'm shaking her beside me, and I'm but trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
And anyway, then the footsteps stop right outside our room. But of course there's no door.
Yeah.
This is just a simple cabin, and they just had curtains, right? Hanging there, and I'm still trying to wake my friend, and she's like, "Whoa, shh." And next thing I see this hand come, and it's pulling the curtain open. I can't even breathe at this point. I can't speak. I'm just frozen. And then I hear, "Oh, you're still up?" And it's her mother, okay? And I'm like, what happened, right? So anyway.
Well, first you were like,
I was just so relieved, right? And I didn't say anything that night, but the next morning we were talking about it, and I mentioned to her mom that I heard this weird, she said, "Oh, I had this horrible dream." She had been reading a Stephen King novel, and she had this dream. I guess somebody was getting strangled in the book or whatever. Anyway, she dreamt that she was getting strangled. So she actually was making noises like she's getting strangled. The thing. And so I heard that. Then she, of course, wakes up. And being a mom, you wake up from a bad dream. It's like, oh, I have to check the kids, right? So she gets up, but she's all sleepy and everything. So she's just like stepping heavily walking down the hallway. And so all of it came together into this just terrifying minute for me. It probably wasn't even a minute, it was probably like 30 seconds for all I know, but it was scary.
Time kind of stops when you're that terrified.
But yeah, with her reading a
slows
scary
down.
story, and I was reading scary stories, and it's
series
dark,
of unfortunate events, the prison break.
Yeah,
and,
all of it together.
And her dad being such a troll, because I think it turned out that prison was far away from you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't in...
He made it sound like it was around the corner.
Yeah, it wasn't in that area.
He was a bit of a troll.
Yeah, he was having fun with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was, oh my goodness, it was so scary.
Well, I remember I was home with my best friend, Scott, and nobody else was home. So he and I are in the house, and we're just watching TV. I can't remember what we were doing, but we would be watching TV or playing games or something. And we heard this noise upstairs, like a... And I mean, it's a stormy freaking night too. Like we kind of look at each other and we're like, what was that? And so I mean, it keeps going. So we decide we have to go upstairs and check. And he's like, he grabs a baseball bat that we had by the door. And he's going up the stairs, and I'm going up behind him, peeking over his shoulder. And we're just going up the stairs slowly, and this noise is still happening, like. And now we had a cat at at the time, and she was downstairs with us, so we knew it wasn't her making this noise. So we're creeping up the stairs, and he's got the bat ready to hit a home run, right? And I'm like peeking over his shoulder, and we go up the stairs, and we get to the top of the stairs. The noise is still happening, and we kind of look one way, and then we look into Mum's room, and we see this headless woman standing next to the window, and I was like, ah! I screamed, he screamed, and then, like, things started to take more shape, and my mother had that she liked to sew, and she had this mannequin in her room that she would put the clothes on to see if they were whatever, to check the sizing of it and the fit and everything, but it didn't have a head. And it was like right next to the window where the moon was shining through. And I probably had to change my underwear. Scott probably did as well, but it was, and it ended up being one of those there used to be these, what did they call them? The reflective crystals or whatever. Like we'd put them in those little tin trays and like fill the tin trays with crystals, and put it in the oven, and
sun catcher.
In these different sun catcher.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like these different shapes. Like you'd have like a rainbow or trees and a house or cats or something, and you'd hang them in the window and the sun would shine through them and they'd be all pretty and everything. Yeah, well apparently they make a lot of noise when it's a stormy night and there's a window open. It was like clanking against the window, and it was scared the bejeepers out of me. Then there was another time I was home alone, so Scott wasn't there to hold the baseball bat and have me hide behind him.
Was there a dog licking your hand?
No, thankfully. Thankfully, no. But I was home alone. Ruffles was our cat. She was probably there. But other than that, I was alone. And I'm sitting there watching TV. And it was like this series of unfortunate events. And you'll remember how the TV used to do this. I'm sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden the channel changes. It was like those push button channels. The channel changes. A lot of you might not know that, but it was an old school TV, okay? It was one of those big blocky TVs, and you push the button on the TV to change the channel. And the channel changes, and I can't remember if I probably got up because the remote didn't usually work. I got up and I changed the channel back. I'm like, okay, that was weird. Then it changed again. So I got up and I changed the channel again, and it kept happening. And then it started going whoosh, whoosh, like the channels were just changing, like up and down. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, what is happening? And then there was like this from the storage room, and I'm freaking out at this point. And I kind of start creeping over towards the storage room, and it's still like there's some kind of monster in the storage room or something. And I'm like, what is going on? This place is haunted. And I was probably about 12, I think, just to give you guys some perspective, okay? So this wasn't like yesterday. And so I reach out, and every horror movie I can ever imagine is going through my mind at this point. I reach out and I open the door, and the washing machine is like jumping towards me, and I screamed and jumped back thinking the washing machine was possessed. But it was unbalanced or whatever. The clothes in it had all gone to one side, so that's, and it like, I thought it was possessed. I thought the washing machine was possessed, and that with the TV changing channels, turned out the TV was just malfunctioning. The push button channels, I don't know, eventually they get too much hand oil or like oil from your hands on them eventually, and they just start to malfunction and change channel. But oh man, that was a scary night for me.
What kind of messed up ghost would possess a washing machine?
Well, what kind of messed up ghost possess cars?
Well, hey, you can do something with a car.
Well, you can do something with a washing machine too. You can scare a little 12-year-old out of her friggin' mind. Okay, so another story, another thing that happened to me. This was more recent. This actually happened when I was living in Vancouver, so it was probably about 10 years ago, I think. I was living in an apartment in New Westminster, and I woke up in the middle of the night, like a voice woke me up. I was in a dead sleep, and I hear, "Help me, somebody please help me." I'm like, the heck? And then, like, I'm awake, so I'm thinking I had a dream or whatever. But then I hear the voice again. "Help me, somebody please help me." I'm like, what is going on? I'm freaking out a little bit. I get up and I searched my bathroom and my closet. I searched the living room, searched like underneath the bed, looked in the other bedroom, in the bathroom. Like, I couldn't find anyone, thankfully. But I was freaking out a little bit because I knew I was awake when I heard the second cry for help. I'm like, what is going on? So anyway, I wasn't able to find anything or anyone. So I ended up going back to bed and having a very fitful sleep. And the next morning, I got up and I went into work. And I was working on Smallville at the time as a PA. And one of my good friends was one of the prop guys there. And I told him about what happened. I said, this freaked me out. And he said, "Well, Ellen, you know what used to be on the lot where your apartment building is, right?" And I was like, no. Do I want to know what used to be on the lot before my apartment building was there? Mm-hmm. And he said it used to be like a psychiatric hospital prison type thing. Mm-hmm. And he said they used to do a whole lot of crazy like lobotomy type things, and like it was from way back that this hospital was there. Like, and he said they used to do these crazy things to patients to try and cure them. And I was like, thank you, Mike. I did not need to know that. I'm never going to sleep again. Oh my lord. Now, thankfully I did sleep again because I blocked it out. I didn't think about it again. But
everything happened again?
No. But it was seriously freaky. Like it gives me chills now thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Like it just freaked me out completely.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Scary. If you have any ghost stories or scary things that happened, you know, supernaturally, and you want to share them, I think that'd be really
comments
cool.
down below. Let us know, because we'll have, especially if you comment like in time for Halloween, those will be the ghost stories that we read to give us the good little scare on Halloween.
Yeah, fun scares.
Yee.
Yeah, everybody has little ghost story thing. No, not everybody, but you know, if you have a ghost story thing or something weird that happened,
put it in the comments.
Yeah, I know my daughters and a friend of theirs and stuff, they used to babysit at this one house. Mm-hmm. And I received calls from them where they'd say, you know, they're scared. They're scared, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Yeah, they're like really like they're calling me like, you gotta get over here, and I'm like, okay, calm down, what's going on? And they're like, the basement door, they're scratching at the basement door, and I'm like, well, they have cats. No, the cats are up here, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's, you know, it's a townhouse, maybe you're hearing some kind of echoing through the walls or whatever, and I'm like, no, it's the door. So I was always one of those, you know, explain it away. There's all kinds of different explanations for something. And then I remember one of them calling one time and saying the doorknob was jiggling, right? And the door was shaking and the doorknob was jiggling. And I'm like, well, with the door shaking, I said, well, you know, there's could be a wind current and the door is shaking some because of that. But the doorknob, that's pretty hard to explain. And I'm like, well, did you open the door? No!
We want you to do that!
Yeah, so, I remember having to go over a couple times and just,
Terminator. Sarah Connor right here. You think she's River Song? No, she's Sarah Connor.
I don't know, it's River Song.
Supernatural version.
Pretty brave, tough chick. But
this
yeah.
is true.
Yeah, it was, I had to go over there and check things out. Never found anything, but there was lots of complaints, and I remember even talking to the lady that was renting the place. She said, yeah, strange stuff has happened, and she just ignores it. But hey, if you liked this, give us the thumbs up.
Subscribe. Leave comments, whether you like scary stories or even if you just want to comment on our stories. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment, share the video.
Ooh.
Okay, so that was not planned. What the heck happened? I don't know. I don't know. That's freaking me out a little bit.
Oh,
That was
harsh.
That was not planned. That just
way to
freaked
end
me out.
the video.
The light just unplugged from the wall. And I mean, it's
Is that the same lighting, or is it on different?
no, it's on a different light. Please stand by. But what was, I got like, it's like one of those big charging blocks for like a tablet, and it just came out of the wall. Like, my chair's not touching it. My foot was on the cable, but there's a whole lot of room for, like, yeah, no. That freaked me out now. Oh, that was perfect timing though for the topic of this video. Okay, yeah.
Support a small YouTuber like her, and smash that like button.
Yeah, and subscribe.
Leave a comment.
Yeah.
Comments are fun.
They are. We love reading your comments. And we're actually going to start December. We're going to be doing Christmas adaptations like we did last year. If you want to check out those videos, I'll link the playlist up there. But we had a lot of fun. And there was a gag reel I did for a New Year's thing. Gags, goofs, and giggles from 2020. So I'll link that up there if you want to watch that first and just see all of our goofs before watching the polished videos. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. And happy Halloween! Thanks, guys. Bye.